Hey, before you dive in, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell, because what I'm about to tell you might change the way you see the skies forever. My name is John Miller. I'm 34, and I grew up near the Nevada desert, not far from Area 51. Most people know it as a top-secret government base where the US supposedly hides aliens, but I always thought it was just a bunch of conspiracy nonsense, until the night I saw something that no one should ever see. I was on a usual solo night drive on a dirt road near Groom Lake. My job as a contractor occasionally brought me near the restricted perimeter, and on this particular evening, I was testing some equipment for one of the private contractors who worked on aerial surveillance tech. The sky was clear, the moon was just a thin crescent, and the air was dry and still. I remember thinking it was perfect for stargazing, something I rarely had the chance to do. I parked my truck on the edge of a ridge and stepped out, taking in the vast emptiness around me. That's when I first noticed it. A faint, low hum that didn't belong to any machine I knew. I thought maybe it was the wind interacting with some of the nearby power lines, but it was different. Deep, vibrating, almost resonating through my chest. I glanced up and saw a faint glow on the horizon, flickering in green and blue tones, moving far too fast for a conventional aircraft. My rational brain kicked in: military drone, experimental aircraft, anything, but it didn't behave like anything I had ever encountered. It hovered for a moment, then zipped to the side in a straight, impossibly smooth trajectory that made no sense aerodynamically. My instincts told me to get back in my truck, but curiosity held me there. I took out my phone, trying to capture the object, but the screen flickered oddly, as if the light itself was affecting electronics. Then it changed course. It headed straight for me. I froze. There was no sound like a helicopter, no flashing lights like a drone. Just this smooth, almost liquid motion slicing through the night sky. My heart pounded as the hum grew louder, and then the air around me started to shimmer, like heat waves on asphalt in the middle of summer. Before I could even reach my truck, a beam of light shot out from the object. It wasn't like any flashlight or searchlight. It seemed almost tangible, thick, pulling at the air itself. I remember feeling my body being lifted, like a hand, invisible yet solid, was grabbing me. Panic flooded my system, but my muscles didn't respond as they should. I was weightless. I screamed, but the sound didn't carry. My ears were filled with a ringing tone that seemed synchronized with the vibration in my chest. And then, as abruptly as it had started, everything went dark. When I came to, I was inside a chamber unlike anything I could have imagined. Smooth, metallic walls curved seamlessly into the ceiling, with panels that glowed faintly without visible light sources. I could hear faint clicks and hums, like some kind of machinery operating, but nothing I recognized. I was lying on a platform that was neither cold nor warm, just neutral, as if the material itself was alive, adjusting to my body. Panic surged again, but something compelled me to stay still. Then they appeared. Figures, humanoid but unmistakably alien. Tall, lean, with elongated limbs and heads larger than human norms. Dark eyes that reflected the faint ambient light. They didn't move with aggression, but with a calm, deliberate precision. One approached me slowly, raising a hand in what I later understood as a gesture of communication. Instead of words, a voice echoed directly in my mind. "Do not fear. Observation is required." I froze. Observation? What did that mean? And why me? I tried to move, to speak, but nothing worked. It was as if my mind and body were locked in some kind of strange resonance with the room itself. Then the figure extended its hand toward a console, and images appeared in midair, holograms showing Earth from above, pinpointing my location. I realized then that I had been under surveillance for longer than I had imagined. Every trip near the perimeter, every glance at the sky, every moment of curiosity, they had noted it. And now I was here, completely out of my control. Hours passed, though time itself felt distorted. They didn't hurt me, but they didn't explain anything either. The more I stared at the figures, the more I realized their purpose wasn't malevolent in the traditional sense. It was scientific, clinical. Yet the fear of the unknown, the sheer impossibility of the situation, was suffocating. Eventually, I noticed another panel activating, projecting a map of stars, routes, and trajectories that I couldn't identify. One of them looked at me again, and I felt a thought pierce my consciousness. You will return. You must remember. That was it. No further explanation. And then the chamber tilted. I could feel gravity shift and my body being propelled backward through a tunnel of light. The sensation was impossible to describe, like being pulled through liquid glass. And then, just like that, I was back on the ridge, my truck in sight, the night sky perfectly normal again. My phone lay beside me, undamaged, no signs of interference. But my chest still throbbed with that same vibrating hum. And when I looked up, the stars were unchanged, except one point of light in the distance that hovered just long enough for me to know it was watching. I didn't know if anyone would believe me, but the memory was seared into my mind, every detail vivid. And I knew, deep down, this wasn't over. Something had marked me that night. Something that wasn't human. Something I could never escape. I woke up the next morning drenched in sweat, the desert sun stabbing through the truck windows. Every muscle ached like I'd run a marathon, though I hadn't moved a step since I hit the ground. My mind raced, replaying every second of that encounter. I tried to convince myself it was a dream, a hallucination from stress and isolation, but my phone told a different story. The timestamp on the photos I'd taken was exactly 1 minute before I blacked out, and yet, there was one more image I didn't remember taking. A blurry shape hovering above the ridge, green and blue lights streaking around it. I froze. The photo wasn't from me. It had appeared there, unaccounted for. That was the first indication that they weren't done with me. Over the next few days, paranoia became my closest companion. Every night, I drove different routes home, never taking the same road twice. The hum returned sporadically, always when I was alone, always when I thought no one was watching. I tried recording it, but the devices couldn't pick up anything. Phones, microphones, even my contractor's surveillance equipment. Nothing. And the shadows, I kept seeing shadows at the edge of my vision, moving unnaturally, too smooth, too deliberate. I started sleeping with lights on, leaving every window cracked, every camera facing the desert. Friends noticed I was jittery, but I told them it was stress from work. In reality, I couldn't explain it. I didn't even know who to tell. The authorities? They'd laugh or arrest me for trespassing near Area 51. Colleagues? They'd call me insane. Only one option remained. I had to track it myself, using every map, satellite image, and night vision tool I could access. I began documenting strange lights, unusual aircraft, and unexplainable phenomena around Groom Lake. Patterns emerged. Most sightings were clustered near old abandoned roads and ridges I knew well. And then came the night it happened again. I had parked my truck far from the usual ridge, hoping to catch them in the act, armed only with a high-resolution camera and a thermal scope. Around 2:13 a.m., I saw it, a metallic orb, hovering silently, almost invisible against the black sky. My heart stopped. It was smaller than I remembered, faster, moving with impossible precision. I tried to back up, to keep my distance, but before I knew it, it descended rapidly, the same thick beam of light enveloping me. This time, I didn't resist. My body lifted effortlessly, my mind flooded with the same ringing tone, except now it was accompanied by another sensation. Pain, sharp and piercing, as if memories themselves were being extracted. I felt images flash in my mind. Deserts, cities, mountains, and stars I had never seen. The aliens weren't just observing, they were learning, studying, cataloging. I panicked, screaming inside my head, trying to push back, but the sensation was unbearable. Then came the silence, the sudden stillness after the storm. I found myself inside a different chamber this time, smaller, more clinical. No rounded walls, no ambient glow. Just cold metal, harsh white lights, and a table. They didn't approach me immediately. Instead, instruments hovered around, scanning, measuring, reading my biological and neural responses. Then one of the taller ones stepped forward and projected something I had never expected. A holographic image of me, not as I was, but as they saw me. Trapped, hunted, a subject in a pattern I couldn't yet comprehend. A thought struck me, sharp and involuntary. You are not alone. And I realized they weren't just observing me. They had observed countless others. Humans, scattered across the globe, each chosen for reasons I couldn't understand. Fear and awe collided inside me. I wanted answers. I tried to communicate, but words failed. Instead, I felt impressions, images, emotions transmitted into my mind. They showed me what they were capable of. Bending light, manipulating perception, traveling silently, leaving no trace. Then came a warning, searing into my consciousness. Do not interfere. You cannot hide. Panic escalated. I realized my every attempt to escape, to hide, was futile. They knew, always knew. And then they did something unexpected. They released me. Not the same drop as before, not a gentle return. This time, I was dropped miles from my truck, deep in the desert, with no clue how far I had traveled. My body hit the ground hard, pain shooting through my ribs, but I survived. When I staggered to my truck, the dawn was breaking. The desert was quiet, normal, unchanged. But I wasn't. I was different. I could feel it in the hum that lingered in my chest, the lingering resonance in my head, the sense that eyes were always on me. I drove home in silence, ignoring calls, ignoring the sunrise. I knew my life would never be the same. And yet, deep down, a question gnawed at me. Why me? What did they want? I started noticing changes in myself. Sudden awareness of electromagnetic fields, intuition about distant movements, glimpses of things beyond normal sight. My friends joked about me going crazy, but I knew it was real. The night I returned, I found something else, something impossible. My home camera footage showed a faint green shimmer outside my window, moving across the desert floor like a living shadow. And then it stopped, as if aware I had seen it, before fading completely. That was when I realized the truth. I wasn't being chased for sport. I was being marked. And if I ignored it, if I pretended it wasn't happening, the consequences, I didn't want to imagine. After that night, nothing felt normal anymore. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat properly, couldn't even step outside without feeling their presence. The hum in my chest had become almost constant, a reminder that I was being tracked, monitored, and somehow studied. Every time I glanced at the sky, I felt that same pressure, that invisible weight above me. I started keeping a log, writing down every light in the sky, every strange sound, every shadow I saw. My friends noticed my paranoia deepening. I stopped answering calls, avoided people, and began carrying my high-tech surveillance gear wherever I went. One night, I was driving on an old dirt road, scanning the horizon with thermal imaging. The desert was empty, silent, except for a faint flicker in the sky. At first, I thought it was a star, then a satellite, but it moved. Fast. Too fast. And then it descended, hovering just above the ground, casting a green-blue glow over the terrain. My stomach turned over. It had found me again. I tried to drive away, but the road seemed longer, more twisted than it had been before. The object matched my every turn, cutting corners with impossible precision. Panic surged as I realized this wasn't a chase. It was a trap. The light beam reached for me again, and I felt that unbearable pull, the same sensation as before. My body lifted, suspended midair, and this time I couldn't fight it. Inside the chamber, the environment had changed. It was colder, darker, filled with machinery I didn't recognize, panels blinking with data I couldn't comprehend. They were waiting, Not just one figure, but several, surrounding me, observing, scanning. I felt their intelligence probing mine, reading my thoughts, memories, fears. Then one of them projected an image of Earth with multiple points of light moving across continents. I realized with a chill that these weren't random observations. They were marking patterns, selecting, studying humans across the planet. I tried to communicate, tried to ask, why me? But instead, they transmitted images directly into my mind. People, places, events, technologies. I was seeing the world through their eyes, their awareness. And then came the message, you are integral. Integral. That word echoed inside my head, and I didn't understand. Integral to what? To them? To their purpose? Before I could process it, they did something I hadn't expected. They allowed me to move freely. But this time, when I walked, the walls of the chamber reflected my movements differently. Shadows bent, objects appeared shifted, and I felt a sense of being watched even by the empty spaces. I realized I wasn't being released in the same way as before. I was being tested. My mind was being calibrated, my perception altered. When I returned to the desert, I noticed immediate differences. Roads I knew intimately were subtly changed, signs slightly misaligned, terrain subtly shifted. I felt disoriented, as if the world itself had been recalibrated around me. Nights became unbearable. The sky flickered with movement I couldn't track, lights darting beyond the edge of human vision. The hum in my chest was now a guide, pointing me to locations, warning me, or maybe communicating. I didn't know. I couldn't call it anything human. My work, my friends, even my memories felt like they belonged to someone else. And then the dreams began. Not sleep dreams, but awake visions. Flashes of places I had never been, people I had never met, events I couldn't explain. And always the sense that they were near. I realized I wasn't alone in this experience. Other humans had been touched, marked, selected. I began searching the news, forums, old reports of disappearances, UFO sightings. Patterns emerged. All the cases had one thing in common: people with sudden, inexplicable experiences, followed by changes in perception, awareness, or abilities. The realization chilled me. I was part of something larger, a network I couldn't understand. And the more I tried to resist, the more I felt the invisible pressure of their attention. Then, one evening, as I attempted to record the sky, I noticed a shadow moving along the ridge. A humanoid figure, perfectly still, observing me. My heart stopped. It wasn't flying, it wasn't hovering. It was walking, gliding almost silently, as if weightless. The figure stopped when I stopped, mimicked my movements with eerie precision. I fled, ran into the desert, adrenaline pushing me past exhaustion. But it was always there, always keeping pace, never closing distance, never retreating. I realized I couldn't escape. They had given me awareness, perhaps even abilities, but the cost was constant observation. And then came the final escalation. My truck disappeared. Not stolen, not hidden, vanished entirely, leaving no trace, no tire marks, no disturbance. Panic surged through me like a living thing. Without transportation, without resources, I was vulnerable. And that's when the beam returned, silently, inevitability in motion, lifting me once more. This time, there was no chamber, no scanning, no subtle calibration. I was taken to a different location entirely. An immense cavern beneath the desert, filled with structures I couldn't begin to comprehend, stretching beyond my sight. Thousands of lights, machines, and figures moved in synchronized precision. My mind could barely process the scale. One of the figures approached, its thoughts resonating in mine. You have been chosen. Observation is complete. You will now serve. And in that moment, I realized the truth I had feared. I wasn't being hunted. I was being recruited, assimilated into a purpose beyond human understanding. The desert above me was calm, unassuming, but beneath it, in the hidden world of light and shadow, my life had irrevocably changed. I wasn't just a survivor anymore. I was part of something that had been watching, learning, and waiting for centuries. And whether I wanted it or not, I had a role to play. I thought I would go mad in that cavern. The scale of it was incomprehensible. Endless corridors, machines humming with energy I couldn't identify, figures moving with perfect precision, all silently observing. My chest thrummed constantly with that familiar hum, which now felt like it had fused with my heartbeat. They approached again, the tall ones, the originals I had seen before, and one projected a sequence directly into my mind. Images of Earth, stars, and the countless humans they had observed. The message was clear: you will integrate. Resistance is irrelevant. My body felt heavy, and yet my mind was sharper, senses heightened in ways I couldn't explain. I could see the flow of energy in the machines, feel the subtle currents in the cavern, detect movement before it happened. They weren't just studying me, they were enhancing me, molding me into something in between human and something else. Fear collided with awe, despair with exhilaration. I realized they weren't cruel, they were beyond cruelty. Their morality, their intentions were incomprehensible to humans. And then they showed me the reason I had been chosen. I didn't want to see it at first. My thoughts screamed for ignorance, for escape, but the images were forced into me. They revealed other humans, abducted across decades, integrated into their operations, observing, reporting, influencing, but always hidden. Governments, corporations, military operations, they had eyes everywhere. And now I understood why they had marked me. I had skills, knowledge, curiosity, the exact traits they had always sought. I was meant to continue their work, to observe, to guide, to influence events subtly, without ever being seen. I wanted to fight, to run, to scream that I wouldn't become one of them, but every instinct, every molecule in my body told me it was impossible. They weren't just physically superior, they could alter perception, manipulate mind and body, and anticipate my thoughts before I even formed them. Days or maybe weeks passed. Time lost meaning. They fed me, conditioned me, trained me in ways I didn't consciously comprehend. The cavern became home, yet I longed for the desert above, for the sun, the wind, for my old, normal life. And then one day they returned me, not to the ridge, not to my truck, but to a secluded stretch of desert where nothing remained. The sky was normal, the stars hung as they always had, yet I was not free. I was a conduit now, carrying their knowledge, their influence, their watchfulness, bound to their will in a way that was both terrifying and intoxicating. I drove toward civilization, my body alert to every movement, every shimmer in the dark. I could feel eyes tracking me, some human, most not. The hum in my chest pulsed with every vehicle, every faint light, every shadow. I tried to call friends, family, anyone, but the words felt wrong. They wouldn't understand, couldn't understand. I realized the world itself was subtly different to me now. Small patterns, anomalies in behavior, shifts in light. I could sense it all. I was changed, and they had changed the world around me, too. And yet, even with all this power, I felt a hollow ache, a longing for a freedom I would never have again. That night, as I lay on a ridge staring at the stars, the familiar green-blue glow appeared in the distance. It hovered for a moment, then disappeared. But I knew it was watching, waiting, always present. I am not a man anymore, not entirely. I am an observer, a participant in something vast, ancient, and unhuman. I move through life in plain sight, yet I am never alone. And sometimes, when the desert wind howls through the ridges, I hear it clearly, the hum of their craft, the whisper of intelligence older than any government, any species. It is a reminder that my life belongs to them now, that curiosity is no longer mine, that the boundaries of the world I knew have been erased. I have stories, experiences, visions, but no one will ever believe them. And in truth, I no longer care if they do. I exist now as something in between, a bridge, a witness, and a prisoner to a reality that humans are not meant to comprehend. I am marked. I am watched. I am theirs. And if you are looking at the sky tonight, wondering if it's all just stories, remember this. I am real. I exist. And they are out there, always watching, always waiting. You may never see them, but they see you.